Welcome. This is From My Heart to Yours. I'm Dr. Andrea Pennington, sharing unscripted messages from my heart and downloads from my soul to inspire you on your life journey. Hi there, beautiful soul. I hope that you're doing well. I wanted to tune in and share a little bit about shame. And this is something that not a lot of people like to talk about for themselves, but it's one of those critical things that might be holding you back from truly loving yourself. So the researcher Brené Brown, and author of several amazing books, has really brought a lot more attention to the idea of healing shame and even toxic shame. So the difference between things like feeling guilt is that bad feeling you get for having done something wrong, whereas shame is the feeling that we take on because we feel like we are wrong, that we are just a wrong, bad person. And for many years, I carried around a lot of toxic shame. For me, that came from feeling like the things that I was into were wrong and bad. But it wasn't just that, because I loved the arts and all these creative things, and my dad was telling me, no, focus on school. That's what's most important. That's what's most reliable. I found for myself that every time I wanted to do something artistic or creative, I felt shame because I heard his voice saying, oh, you're a dilettante, just like your old dad. You really need to focus on your studies. So every time that impulse came, I felt like I was a bad person. Can you relate to that at all? Well, the thing that we have to recognize is that none of that's true. You're not a bad person. You may have done bad things, and sure, I've done my fair share of bad things, but you are still worthy of forgiveness, of compassion, and you deserve to embrace yourself as a whole, healthy being that deserves to do amazing things in this world. And one of the things that I share in the Real Self Love Handbook is kind of like the process of getting to unconditional acceptance. And for most of us, feeling accepted or worthy was always based on conditions. Like in my case, it was just like, because at a very young age, I was always hearing, focus on your school, focus on your school. And my brother and I, my brother's also a musician, like music runs in our family, both my brothers and me. And my mom even, taking piano lessons in her 40s and singing, Barbra Streisand. Like, we came from a musical family, and yet we were told that we couldn't focus on that or rely on that. And so it was one of those things that it felt like the only way I could get acceptance and approval from my dad was if I came in with a straight A report card. And of course, what went along with that is if I got good grades, then yes, I could be in the school play or play trumpet in the band or run track or do cheerleading. But in my early 30s, that's when I first started to recognize that I was totally programmed to keep going after more and more certifications and degrees and licenses and everything I could do to try to tick all these boxes of acceptance. But at the end of the day, I didn't even feel good about any of those accomplishments, and it never took away that internal drive to keep seeking more. And anytime I would again veer off and want to do something creative, I felt shame. And the biggest thing that has helped me along the way that I thought I would share with you, is this gentle path towards self-acceptance. Because when you can get to a place where you accept yourself, then you can start to rewrite that narrative. Like, all of us have a narrative, a story that we're telling ourselves about ourselves. And it's usually not conscious. It's not like I walked around saying, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm dumb, I'm stupid. I didn't say those things in my head or out loud, but I felt it. And what we recognize now is that our feelings are always being fueled by some thoughts. And those thoughts are generated by beliefs. And those beliefs come from a sense of identity. Who you are drives your beliefs about what's possible for you. And those beliefs drive your thoughts about the thoughts of, oh, I think I'll go do this, or no, I won't do that, or I'm bad, or I'm wrong. And those thoughts create the feelings and the emotions. And then all of that impacts our speech and our behavior. And so as much as we would love to try to change our behaviors and put on that smiley face, it doesn't work. We've got to get down to the root cause. The root cause of not feeling lovable or worthy is an identity problem, meaning you think that you are a person. Let that sink in. When in reality, you're not a person. You're a spiritual being. It's your spiritual essence, your soul, with this unique soul print that has incarnated in the form of a person, but you're not your body. So when I say you're not a person, I mean, yeah, you're walking around as a person in this life, but you're not your body. You're not your mind. You're not those past behaviors. You are the essence, that awareness, that spiritual being that animates this body. You're not the ego. So all of the programming that you took on that may make you feel like you're not good enough or not worthy is faulty programming. It's just not true. It's not real. And that seems really hard to change, right? I mean, changing these subconscious programs, most people are trying to go to NLP and hypnotherapists to like change the program. But I'm going to read to you a little bit of this passage from the Real Self Love Handbook. And it's basically about this. So how can you embrace and develop unconditional self-acceptance? There are 3 keys that we explore in this chapter: living mindfully, practicing self-compassion, and embracing your own unique essence. And that's what makes you uniquely special. So it's all of these keys that when you fully utilize them, they will unlock the door to you entering your own epic life. So I'm going to just start with the first one, and that is mindful awareness. So one of the keys to unconditional self-acceptance is mindful awareness. So this Harvard psychology professor and social scientist, Ellen Langer, PhD, she's the author of Mindfulness and Self-Acceptance. And she says, one of the simplest and most natural methods of reducing self-evaluation and replacing it with acceptance is to assume a mindset of mindfulness rather than mindlessness. So mindfulness, if you think about it, most of us go through our lives totally oblivious to the source of our internal attitudes. We're mindlessly assuming that our mental dialogue and our belief systems are accurate. You're not mindful, you're mindless. And it's typically these hidden beliefs that are in the back of your mind that are driving you to act in sometimes these unnatural ways, or in my case, striving for accomplishments, all so that you can minimize that chance of being discovered as imperfect or unworthy, right? And so most of us are unaware of how much of that shame is actually controlling us. That whole fear of falling short of some unrealistic ideal. It's the mindless assumptions that inhibit us, bind us, and rob us of self-expression. And if they go unchecked, these mindless assumptions influence nearly everything we do in life, especially in our relationships. So the first thing to really look at is what I call the shoulds. And these are the mindless assumptions. What are the shoulds that are floating around in your head? Such as, I should be further along in my career. I should have more money to invest. Or I should already be married with children. Or I should be living on my own. It's these type of should statements that are the types of thoughts that most of my clients tell me are rattling around in their minds, and they used to be the things that blocked me. So becoming aware of what's taking up your mental energy is an important part of mindfulness. So mindfulness involves being more flexible in your mental state so that you can draw new distinctions about the present situation and your current environment. Present, current, meaning it may be true. You may have done some things in the past, or you may have had experiences as a child where you did something wrong or you were overpowered. But carrying the beliefs that that's the only thing that you can be or do in life, that's where you're hanging yourself up. It may have been true back then, but mindfulness is about drawing new distinctions in the now, in this present moment. So even if you say, oh man, I'm such a loser, I'm such an idiot, or I'm such a whatever, maybe the first time you took on those beliefs, it was true. I mean, maybe you did something really stupid or really silly or really embarrassing, but it doesn't mean that that's true today. And so I just want to invite you to ask the question, where did all this should come from? And, once you can start to investigate, that's when you can really find out if there were any defense mechanisms or automatic reactions that you've done based on what you adopted as these beliefs when you were a child. Because the bottom line is, it's that conditioning that creates the habits and the patterns that may be holding you back from really loving your life. It's the pattern of thinking that you're bad or wrong that makes you feel shame. And so if you could drop the shoulds, that's really where you can start stepping into the now. And so there's more to this in this chapter, but one of the things that you can start doing right now is to just make a list for the next week. Anytime you hear yourself saying should, write it down and then ask, is it true? I should call that person back, or I should have whatever. Now, I'm not saying that there may not be some obligations that you should do, but it's the wording, and it's also identifying what's underneath it, the thoughts, the beliefs, and eventually who it says you are as a being. Okay? So in my own case, I remember moving to the south of France, and when I got here, I made a complete shift in my life and my lifestyle. I went from having a very secure media career, lots of money, lots of connections, to moving to a country where I had no family, no friends, and no job. So I was still kind of going back to the US for TV gigs and things, but I knew that I was meant to be here in France. And so I trusted, followed my heart. Me and my kid moved here. But there were moments when I first started working in Monte Carlo where I experienced the shoulds. Now, previously when I was working in Hollywood, I felt like I fit in. I had the money and the car and the fame and the stuff, the wardrobe that my daughter wishes I had now because she's doesn't like the way I dress. It's a whole nother story. But I remember when I first went to Monaco, it was like I was confronted with this should, ooh, everyone else is so chic and they have this and this and this and this. I should, by this stage in my life, have those things too. And that sense of feeling ashamed of what I have or didn't have and who I'd become, letting go of all the titles and all of that stuff, it really, really forced me to go within. And I think the lucky part is, in my case, the pain that I endured having the big career that wasn't fulfilling and only like expressing just this fraction of me, like the TV work and the documentaries. I wasn't expressing my full self. And all of the deep spirituality, all of the exploration of consciousness and, this whole evolutionary path, that wasn't being honored. And forget about the musical and creative side. It just wasn't enough. So I have the benefit of knowing I can't go back. I can't go back to living that inauthentic life just because I had a better wardrobe or fancier car. Like for me, the most important thing was to be able to know that I was showing my daughter that this is the way you live authentically. And that may not be the case for everyone. I don't know what it is for you, but there has to be that sense at some point where you say, I want to live my truth, and I'm willing to dig deep to find out what that is so that I can hold my head high without shame. And I promise you that the feeling of being on purpose, living your truth, or your dharma as we call it, is so vastly rewarding that it'll make up for the material things. And you'll also learn about contentment. Because at the end of the day, even working in Monaco with these millionaires and billionaires, they had the exact same thing. Those periods of their lives where they realized, what does all this stuff mean? I'm not even happy. But being content with who you are and how you are expressing your life force energy is, in my opinion, what is critically important for all of us. So I invite you to do that. Look at the shoulds. Look at this chapter on developing unconditional self-acceptance. And let me know your feedback. I'm really curious to hear.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to subscribe and share this with anyone else who needs some inspiration. You can also check out some of my videos on YouTube, including my TED Talks, and visit me online to download free resources from the Real Self Love movement, including guided meditations, my live masterclasses, and you can learn more about my retreats and workshops around the world. Did you know that I host a free Ask Me Anything Q&A session? Yep, it's the second Tuesday of the month, and it's totally free. It's a way that I can support you on your journey to conscious evolution and real self-love. So just check me out online for reminders on how to join the live Q&A. Visit AndreaPennington.com. I so look forward to connecting with you again. Until then, please remember you are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love.